This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Enter offer code TWiST at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. And Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com.
Hey everybody, it's an amazing episode of This Week in Startups. Ben Rattray is on the program, and he is the founder of Change.org, which has been around for almost 10 years, has over 100 million users, and they have done some amazing petitions online to do things like allow the Boy Scouts of America, in fact, force them to accept gay people as leaders and as Boy Scouts in their organization. And they have a new platform, changepolitics.org, which is fascinating. And we have an 80-minute rambling discussion about everything changing in the world. This is one of the best episodes of the year. You're going to love it. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis, and today on the program, we're going to talk about change in the world. We live in fascinating times, don't we? It seemed like just, 20 or 30 years ago, nothing would ever change. Gay marriage, legalization of cannabis. If I told you these things were legal in 1985, or that the Russians would be our friends and be moving in and then become our enemies again, you would think I was crazy. But lo and behold, the will of the people is being heard in the world, and you can get weed over the counter, I think in 3 states and soon 30. People were against gay marriage. People hated the gays. I was watching a clip on David Letterman where some comedian was smoking a cigarette on television in the 90s and laughing about how disgusting gay people were. And the audience was laughing along with him. And I just thought, holy beep, beep, beep. The world was effing nuts just 30 years ago. People were on television deriding gay people, saying they're disgusting. People hated the gays. They didn't want to have gay marriage. Now, things have changed. People support gay marriage. Even some of these Republicans accept their own gay daughters and sort of backing down from, hey, gays can't be married. Things can change. And Change.org is one of those players in the space of change. And today on the program, Ben Rattray, yeah. Rattray, I got it. Rattray is on the program. He's the founder and the CEO from 2005 to now. Welcome to the program. We've been trying to get you for a while. You've been doing this forever.
I've been doing this for a long time. We actually launched in 2007.
2007.
Yeah, I started working on it in 2005. It's one of those things where founders are oftentimes embarrassed to admit how long they've been working on a project.
Right. They just take out the first couple of years. They just go to the launch.
I've actually extended it. I wish it were the case. Oftentimes people are like, this is amazing. It's just taken off. But yeah, we've been around for 9 years.
9 years. And this is it's not a nonprofit. It's a B corporation.
That's right.
Explain to the audience what a B corporation is.
Yeah, so it's a B corporation is a C corp, a traditional company, has a structure and equity just like any other startup.
Shareholders.
And the difference, shareholders, exactly. So equity exists amongst employees, amongst investors as well. And the difference is the company's made a specific, explicit commitment to being in service of social change. And you have this public rubric of evaluation around sustainability, community investment, and purpose and mission that you have to commit to.
The board decides if you're hitting the mission, right? Is that how it works?
The board, and there's actually an outside evaluator as well, an auditor called B Lab that is a nonprofit that assesses and ensures you have a certain threshold score for whether you're making positive impact in the world.
That's interesting. And if they deem that you're not making positive impact,
they will decertify you as a B Corp.
So there's a private company that decides if you're a B Corp or not.
It's a nonprofit. It's a certifying entity.
A certifying entity.
Yeah.
So that's super fascinating because B Corps didn't exist 10 years ago when you started this, or whatever, 15 years ago.
Didn't, yeah. They started, so it started in 2007, 2008, so right around the time we were starting.
Yeah.
And look, there's been people that believe deeply that their business is in service of social good for a long time. I think what's different now is you have a formal structure and an increasing movement of companies that are explicitly saying, look, we deeply believe that business can be the most effective vehicle for positive change in the world, whether it's education, environment, healthcare. And I think homelessness.
Hand up. I'm an investor. I was the first investor.
Were you? We think they're an outstanding
Just
team.
pat myself on the back there. I basically did it because I had the founder, Rose, on the program, and I invested right on the program. So I was like, you know what? I really think that, you're so freaking smart. You're going to do something good, and I'll just give you 10 dimes as a donation. She's like, no, I want you to invest. And I was like, I don't want to go to my
More
LP.
than 10 dimes, I hope.
Well, then it wound up being 25 dimes, and then I got a couple of my friends roped into it. Anyway, the point was, it was like, I don't want to invest in this. I want to donate. And then she was like, you have to invest. And I was like, you know what? It's something I don't understand. Therefore, I should probably I'm trying to say yes more. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. We'll see what happens. And now I've actually learned a lot about it. But when you're a B corporation, do people stigmatize you as a nonprofit and lame and a bunch of hippie do-gooders who don't kick ass?
Before we had 100 million users, that were the case. I think that was the case. And there's a skepticism reflexively that people have, not just so much about the B Corp, but the .org, which is a longer story overall, which we think speaks to the mission
And anybody
of the
can
company.
get a .org.
Exactly. Craigslist.org. You had upcoming.org. It's also the case
means
that
nothing.
Change.com is a lingerie store, which we do not have the URL for. But the one that was available was Change.
Probably a good thing for you. It's probably going to work in your favor in some way.
So it is the case that people are uncertain sometimes, and there's a skepticism in the tech community about nonprofits in general. Yeah. Not all of them, but there's a sense they're not as robust, they're not as demanding, and they don't scale as effectively. And the reality is, in general, on the scaling side, it's right. I mean, I think the reason why it's such an exciting environment now using businesses for social change is if you look at the organizations, the institutions that have had the biggest scale over the past 30 years, they're all companies. There's actually a great study that was done. Over the past 40 years, the number of nonprofits that have started and gotten to more than $50 million in revenue or donations a year, it's about 150.
Yeah.
And in the same period of time, more than 10,000 companies have done the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
And so we don't want to do is consign social change to the nonprofit sector. We think it's important.
You can do good and do well at the same time.
Do well by doing good.
Do
Absolutely.
well by doing good, whatever the catchphrase is.
Yeah, and I think increasingly so. I think you see from a consumer perspective, you see companies that are doing well because people believe deeply in their brands. One of the things that I think is interesting is with the incredible increasing rise, ever importance of social media on the brand of companies. I mean, a lot of consumer companies, the most valuable thing that they own is their brand.
Yeah.
And as it becomes less and less a function of what they do and more a function about what people on the internet say about them, then they're incredibly sensitive to what people say and do, and therefore they care more and more about their perception, their behavior. And we see this, in fact, there are change.org petitions every single day asking companies to change policies that win all the time merely because the company is afraid of brand damage.
Right. And so when we look at one, like here, I'm just pulling up change.org, and everybody's seen a change.org petition, so I don't have to explain what that is. That would be like explaining an eBay auction. Everybody knows what an online petition is. There's other people who do it as well. And in fact, I think the precursor, Andrew Mason's precursor to
the
Groupon was The Point, which was, I guess, a contemporary of yours, and then he went over and people were using his petition to get more free pizza or free garlic knots. But anyway, I'm looking at the change.org petition here. We'll pull it up on the screen for freeing Stephen Avery, who, of course, is the subject of making a murderer. And somebody created a petition for him to free him.
Yeah.
And then they write, there is a documentary series on Netflix called Making a Murderer. After viewing it, I am outraged with the injustices and have been allowed to compound and left unchecked in the case of Stephen Avery, blah, 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 blah. His mistreatment, blah, 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 blah. Stephen Avery should be exonerated at once by pardon.
Yep.
And the country should be complicit in false imprisonment. Letter to the United States. governor, blah, blah, blah.
And the governor of Wisconsin, the state in which she's incarcerated. And what's interesting here is, so, Netflix comes out with this show. I think it was December 18th. And, of course, it's, all the series in one, 8 episodes. Or 10 episodes. And literally 2 days later, this guy starts this petition, goes massively viral, mobilizes, 400,000 people across the country. In fact, gets thousands of media hits, builds this big narrative. So it leverages a personal story illustrated by the media and then turns all those viewers who previously would be disconnected and have no influence into like a mass mobilization force that gets the president literally to directly engage and respond on
And who
change
is this
org.
person, Michael Sedian, who did it from Arvada, Colorado?
He is a viewer of this show. Now, oftentimes people start petitions, it's because their family, something personally that has impacted them. And sometimes they're just, a regular citizen that has been outraged or frustrated or wants to see change in some facet and goes online, spends 60 seconds, starts a petition, and it goes viral.
And this is unbelievable. The president of the United States
literally responds to the campaign.
Yes. And so it says here, this response was posted by We the People team at the White House. So there's some team of people. It's obviously not Obama, but
apparently
a team.
He's got things to do.
He's got a couple things to do. Who looks at, I think it's any petition that reaches 100,000 he'll comment on?
So what's interesting is, so the White House has his own petition site, and there's a...
Is that powered by you or just independent?
It's not powered by us, but what they have announced is that we will be integrating.
Okay.
And they're going to be allowing people to start change.org petitions that count for the White House as well.
The 100,000.
Yeah, and the reason is there are just many more people that are taking action on change.org than on the White House website.
Great way for them to build the presidential email database, that's for sure.
So it's been interesting sort of, the control of this, the access has been a sensitive point. They are frankly pretty respectful of this. They have sent very infrequent emails to the people who've started petitions on White House petition site. But what we found is that people actually want to hear about these issues, right? So if you petition the president, it's actually a quite empowering experience to receive a direct response from the White House.
Yeah.
And not just the president. We have this down to Senate, Congress, City Council, School Board.
Okay, when we get back from commercial break, I want you to tell me what, in your mind, are the top 2, not 20, not 7, top 2 biggest changes that have resulted from a change.org petition when we get back on This Week in Startups. Let me take a moment to thank my friends at Squarespace. And the reason I want to thank them is because the Launch Festival website, launchfestival.com and launchhackathon.com are gorgeous. They are perfect. They look like we spent $250,000 on them. And I can tell you, when I priced out getting the launch websites built, people quoted me literally 6 figures to make a beautiful, robust website. You know what? I got Squarespace and I used their templates, and my team, without any technical knowledge, no developers, were able to make the most gorgeous websites that are responsive and look great on mobile or tablet or on the desktop and have videos running in the background, and they integrate with everything we use. And they're so simple to use that I just said to my chief of staff, can you spend an hour teaching everybody how to use Squarespace so anybody can change the website? And he said, I did it in 5 minutes. It's that easy. So easy to use, so beautiful, and you can make a professional looking, well-designed, intuitive, and easy to use site with no code. It's just so easy. It's state-of-the-art technology. It's secure, it's stable, and it's trusted by millions. Some of the most respected brands in the world use it, in fact, and it starts at only $8 a month, which, if my math is correct, is like under $100 a year, which is ridiculous. And you get a free domain, in fact, if you sign up for a year. Start your free trial today, no credit card required. And if you decide to sign up for Squarespace, please use the offer code TWiST and get 10% off, because that makes them feel great about This Week in Startups and their support of it. So go ahead and thank @Squarespace on Twitter if you love the program. Literally, that's one of the best things. I don't ask you guys for much help, but literally telling everybody on your Twitter, I love Squarespace, I use Squarespace, thank you Squarespace for supporting @TWI Startups. Super helpful. Because you get the word out about their great product, you get the word out about how great the program is, and it all just works well. And I'll probably retweet you and favorite, so it's a good benefit for you too. Squarespace, build it beautiful. What a great tagline. Build it beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Simple, easy, beautiful, and affordable. In fact, I think it's too cheap. I would pay $80 a month. I'd pay probably $800 a month for our service. This is good. Literally, it's worth $10,000 a year, and they're charging under $100. I don't get it. I don't know how they make this such a successful business, but I guess the secret is in the fact that millions of people use it. And when millions of people use your product, you know what? It becomes more stable, more reliable, faster and you add more features because you're making money and you can invest in the platform. And that's one of the beautiful things I've seen. Every single quarter, Squarespace adds new features. Like they have a calendar feature, which we love. All this different support. We say, hey, I wonder if Squarespace can do this. And then we look on their blog and it's just like this constant cadence of new product coming out of that company. The product cadence at Squarespace is really impressive. All right, anyway, listen, I could talk about Squarespace all day because I love the product. And as you know, the partners on the show, they're all people who we use their products. We call it whitelisted advertising here, whitelisted partnerships. Squarespace, amazing. Build it beautiful. Thank you to my friends at Squarespace. All right, everybody. Hey, I'm here with the founder of change.org. Ben is with us, and it's a B Corp. You've raised a ton of money. You just did a $25 million Series C.
Yes, we raised about $50 million total.
$50 million to make a petition site.
To make a petition site that scales massively around the world with 100 million users.
Okay,
sort of like Twitter scaling to have 140 characters.
How many employees?
300 employees. So we actually have staff, and the reason is we have staff in 19 different countries.
Oh, okay.
So we're actually the biggest social change organization online in each of the 19 of the biggest democracies in the world.
How do you make money?
So sponsored campaigns, native advertisement. It enables nonprofits, political campaigns, companies to post paid petitions on the site. And if you take action on an issue, let's say around homelessness or around human trafficking, Amnesty International might then promote its petition. You can join that and join their membership.
Interesting. So they could see it as a way to actually result in revenue because these nonprofits need to get members.
It's the most effective way. I mean, nonprofits historically have acquired donors. That's part of the business they're in for sustaining themselves is donor acquisition. They've done it via direct mail for many years, highly inefficient, it's declining.
So you take a piece of the action?
So we don't take a piece of the action. It's a CPA, it's cost per acquisition model.
Okay, so if they get an email address, they pay you $1 or $5?
It depends entirely on targeting. Average. It's just like on average is somewhere between $1 to $2.
Okay, so if I'm Amnesty International, I get 25,000 emails from you. I give you $50,000. It's a lot of money. But then I can hit those 25,000 people, and maybe if I convert 10% of them into members for $50 each, maron, I'm in the black.
I mean, it's one of the most. I mean, I'd say one is, of course, these are all opt-in. One of the most important things is you take action, you're opting in.
You don't have to be like, I mean, it's a business.
Yeah, totally.
I got to think the $2 acquisition cost is more authentic, less unsubscribes.
You're purposely signing a petition of theirs and saying, I want to find out more information about this issue. You've opted in big time. Yep. And so a significant percentage of those will donate. And so the ROI for these nonprofits is significantly positive, which is why we have the biggest nonprofits in the world that are using the site for donor acquisition.
All right, here I am on the homepage. Now I'm looking, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these is paid. Or which one is paying?
So none of them are paid. The way we actually do the paid, even if you took first action, you wouldn't see it. We do qualified leads.
Got it.
So only when people take action and have been responsive a second time do we feature, based on your previous actions, a sponsor petition.
So are any of these, which one of these on the homepage when I'm pulling up the platform?
They're all organic petitions. All of them.
All these are organic.
Yep.
So which one would be one where you're getting paid?
So we're not getting paid in any of them. The dynamic that works is, let's say you sign a petition around a women's rights campaign, or let's say a Syria campaign. And there's a group like UNICEF that is working on Syrian refugees. After I sign the first petition, I might get recommended a sponsor petition. And it says, hey, sign our campaign to join this and others.
Very clever. So you kind of hide them 2 levels deep.
Well, we contextualize it based on the actions I've just taken, give you the opportunity for saying, hey, I mean, part of the benefit here is that the quality of content, advertiser content effectively, is incredibly high. Instead of being something something totally separate, it's native and it's the biggest nonprofits and political campaigns in the world that are advertising.
Okay, so here I am. I'm looking at like this petition for, you pull up my screen. I guess this is release of somebody in Iranian custody. There's no similar ones there.
No. This is actually somebody just released by the Iranians.
Yes, I know about this.
It was a Washington Post reporter, and the Washington Post started this petition. More than a year ago, 500,000 people joined. And one of the benefits here is, if you want to create change, you need something persistent that doesn't just die after an hour or 2 hours or a day. One of the challenges, Twitter is an immensely effective tool at spreading a message, but it's ephemeral. So if 100,000 people tweet the same thing at the same day, it's powerful in that moment, but you don't actually have a movement of people you can engage over time, and this is what you allow. So you can see all the tweets integrated. All these people of prominence tweeted it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so when we left for commercial break, so I understand the business model.
Yep.
It's lead gen, but you can't find it on the site. You would only get exposed to it by email? Is that what you're saying?
You get exposed to it. No, on the site, we suggest it after you've taken multiple actions. The goal is to make it as qualified as possible for the user and for the advertiser.
So you never see it. Do you have to label it? How do you label it?
Yeah, it's called sponsored. I don't even, I mean, you would see it if you're an active user.
What I find really interesting about this, Ben, is like how you're figuring out how to take the best practices of lead gen, which is like Thumbtack's business, or Google's got a business around that. A lot of people got businesses around lead gen, but applying it to causes and nonprofits. So in a way, you're really empowering them. So do the people like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Reid Hoffman, or Midyar, I know those are a bunch of do-gooders there when they invest. And I notice it's Reid Hoffman, not Greylock.
Yeah.
So it's him personally.
We've purposely not gone to raise any institutional financing.
Does that mean they're not going to get a return on investment when they put 25%?
No, they will.
million in?
I mean, the reason we've taken individuals,
profile,
and it's not even the amount, it's the timeline. So the reason we've gone individuals, not institutions, is because we want to have a long-term perspective and not have the forcing function of we think to be sometimes exits that are too short-minded. And what we don't want is to feel like we have that forcing function because the life cycle of, let's say, a fund. And we think that's fine for other businesses.
They would want a return in 7 to 10 years. You've been at this for over 10.
And
I
9
get the
years
sense
now,
this is your first and last startup.
Oh, I'm going to be here for 30 more years. I mean, we're going to build, one of the things we just launched last week is this new elections platform. We'll build, we'll leverage the hundreds of millions of users we'll eventually have to be able to empower people not just to have their voice via petitions, but actually their vote, their time,
all right,
their
when we
money.
get back from the commercial break, let's talk about this elections thing, because that's the new product that we're here to plug a little bit, and I want to hear about. But before the commercial break, before I asked you the two things that you personally, Ben, as the founder, are most impressed by your own platform, you think you're the most proud of when you talk to your mom or your cousin or your significant other?
So there's a number of campaigns. I'll just mention two. I mean,
I'm not going to give me your top two.
30,000
trying to make
every
it hard.
month they get launched. So there's tens of thousands every month they
I'm
get launched.
going to make it hard.
And a huge victory. The biggest was probably the Boy Scouts of America accepting gay members for the first time in its history. Because this seems like it's not a big deal. 2.5, 3 years ago, people thought it's a private organization. They'd fought all the way to the Supreme Court to defend their right to discriminate. They won that court case. And it was only because of more than 100 change.org campaigns, one of which was from a 17-year-old kid who was a week away from his Eagle Scout badge. He creates a tolerance wall, in his middle school against bullying. Because of that, they find out he's gay. They kick him out of the Boy Scouts. His mom starts a Change.org campaign. 500,000 people join, sparks a national movement.
Was this the one by John Fenogolio?
Among others. There's more. I mean, there's
a ton, because I'm looking. I pull up my site.
2.5
I just
million.
did a search. Pull up my site, everybody.
Yeah. So this is
that's
Jennifer Tyrell.
The one you guys.
This is the first campaign. It was interesting here.
How many people are on that one?
So about 300,000, 350,000. This is a den mother. I mean, the way this started is oftentimes through personal stories. This is how things are going viral online. Not these.
This is a den mother with a gay kid.
So this is it's actually a mom with who's a den mother with a gay kid, and she was kicked out of the Boy Scouts.
Oh, she's gay.
Yep, she is gay.
And
she
made a straight
there's
kid.
Actually two different petitions. So she was kicked out of the Boy Scouts as a den mother.
For being a lesbian.
She has 3 adopted kids. She then starts a petition, tries to change a policy, and she gets 300,000 people, becomes a huge media circus.
Amazing.
And then Boy Scouts they reject her initially. So they reaffirm the anti-gay policy. And then she finds out on the board of the Boy Scouts of America, there are 2 Fortune 500 CEOs of very gay-friendly companies, AT&T and Ernst & Young. And so
and
she
Intel
petitions
looks like
them.
they gave financial support.
Totally. So they start petitioning companies with associations of the Boy Scouts. And
Hey, pull this up on my screen.
If you look at the Intel, what's interesting is it ends up being the case that they found out the biggest corporate donor of the Boy Scouts is Intel, $1 million a year. So somebody petitions Intel to either have a non-discrimination policy in their donation policy. So it petitions Intel to be consistent with their own donation policy and remove the $1 million. There's tens of thousands of people.
Great.
They win that campaign. They pull money out of AT&T. They pull money out of all these other companies.
And these are all
there's
happening
a wildfire.
in the second half of 2012.
Yep, this is the first major campaign.
And
that
she
really
started
took
hers
off.
in the spring of 2012. So the whole thing just spiraled.
We see these movements emerge where one campaign leads to 2 campaigns, leads to dozens, and then hundreds.
So awesome. And by the way, completely ridiculous, because I was in the Boy Scouts for a long time. There were a lot of gay guys in the Boy Scouts. I just want to put it out there.
Widely known, never acknowledged.
Listen, a bunch of boys going out into the woods with a bunch of leaders. There were a bunch of gay leaders. Now, I'm not making any insinuations about pedophilia, but or young boys and but there was a lot going on. Let me just leave it at that. Because I also went to Irish Catholic, I went to Catholic school, and they told us which priest to look out for. You know what I said, Ben? I said, hey, if you guys are telling us, look out for these brothers or that priest, don't be alone with them, do you think I might not need to be in this school because you're concerned that these are pedophiles?
What's interesting is if that happened today, one of the students would start a Change.org campaign, and that would be a massive media circus.
It's crazy. But wow, that is amazing. I mean, the Boy Scouts of America to be... Yeah, I remember when they were doing this whole fight, and this all went down on Change.
All went down. It was more than 2 million people that joined campaigns, hundreds of campaigns that get launched. And that's the power of distributed organizing. Anybody can start a campaign anywhere on any issue.
It's great because, what are these people thinking? When you see gay kids killing themselves, this is the reason. It's already hard enough to be part of the minority of people. Sexuality is already so difficult for teenagers. So you take sexuality being difficult for teenagers, you're the minority of society, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, McKinsey and whatever, studies 15%, whatever. So you're the minority. So you already feel awkward enough about your sexuality because you're a teenager and you're in Boy Scouts, and then they tell you can't be in it.
Yep.
I mean, this is why people kill themselves. They jump in front of trains. They commit suicide.
Demonizing people, and in fact, it's both on gay girls and boys, and on transgender. So the suicide rate is literally it's multiples 3 to 9 times the average American. And so these are issues that wouldn't have previously been brought up before. And because the media in general, and of Change.org in particular as well, these are being brought up across the country.
So loathsome. The Boy Scouts of America. I'm so disgusted by the Boy Scouts of America with this issue. And so what's the state now?
No, they've turned around. So literally 9 months after that first campaign got launched and then got a huge amount of media attention. It wasn't an issue at all in the media before this started. It was only because of this story. 9 months after reaffirming their anti-gay policy, they turn around 180 degrees, apologize, and accept gay members for the first time in history.
Finally. Thank God.
Better late than never.
In a way, yes, it is better late than never. I think it's when you think about when people actually do capitulate, it is a very interesting thing in society. If somebody capitulates for being a bigot or a racist or whatever it is, what is the right thing to do? Do you hold them to their previously bigoted, horrific position, or do you say, hey, let's hug it out?
I think you celebrate progress. It's not to absolve them of responsibility previously. Yeah, but I think that what you want to do is lean into the reality that people come from very different circumstances, from very different places, and what you care most about is where are they moving, how are they progressing, and we want to embrace that because the problem we don't want to condemn people for previously being bad.
It's just
we want to embrace when they're good.
Is this a personal thing for you? Where you did you experience some crazy bias when you were a kid or something like that? Or,
no. In fact,
why did you start this whole thing? It seems like you got a little bit of a chip or a little bit of sand in your
definitely not
oyster.
A chip personally.
Nothing?
I mean, things worked out.
Nothing?
No. So, well,
sure?
No, I'll tell you. So, with my brother, actually. So, I was going to be, I'm from Santa Barbara. I had ended up going to Stanford, and I was going to be an investment banker, and that was my path, and I was just going to make a ton of money. And then my brother, my senior year in college, comes out as gay. And he says the thing that was most painful for him as a closeted gay American weren't people that were explicitly anti-gay, but people who refused to stand up and to speak out against them. People like me. Calls me out.
The silent majority.
Yep. And I was totally ashamed. I mean, literally had never been ashamed like that before.
So it is personal.
And so at that point, I went through an incredible personal deliberation of what I wanted to do with that knowledge, with that kind of reality. And I pivoted in a significant way, and I decided not to be an investment banker. And then I went to D.C. to learn about power and politics to try to make change.
Very personal. So you watched your brother struggle.
Yeah. It was a tough time.
Because I have 2 brothers. It's nothing like your brother. If somebody is hurting your brother, isn't that the same as them? It's even worse.
It's worse than hurting you because you feel like he's helpless. He's a younger brother.
Oh, he's
somebody
a younger brother
who's
too. So you're responsible as his older brother.
Oh, and I didn't do anything at all.
Did he get beat up and stuff like that, or he
didn't
just
get beat up,
harassed?
but just ostracized? He was a kid who was phenomenally successful. He was the valedictorian. He was the most popular kid in school, literally until 13. And then almost drops out of school, gets into, sort of a bunch of issues he wouldn't have been into before. We had no idea why. We thought he's fallen. He was a kid that was the golden child that had fallen, and all of a sudden
at the age of 13.
Yeah, then you realize 4 years later, it's because of how he was treated for being gay. And you just didn't know he was gay. He didn't come out until
17, 18.
Yeah, end of high school.
Did you know when that 13?
I didn't know.
So you were just my brother's acting weird.
Yep.
He was the golden child.
Yep.
So in a way, you kind of feel guilty too about
not having stood up and spoken out in his defense and stood with him in solidarity during that time.
Right. And you're his older brother. Maybe you should have been able to figure it out. That's a lot of guilt for you, like to figure it out.
I don't know. I mean, we're both Catholic, so he and I mean, our family is, and so there's definitely.
Well, he's supposed to keep that quiet, right?
He's not supposed to say. Although my mother has been phenomenal on this, despite being Catholic, being incredibly, incredibly loving and giving, and questioning the Catholic Church on this issue. Yeah, but I think that you look for any entrepreneur. I think you want to be feeling that what you're doing is deeply meaningful to you, and you care passionately about the result. It doesn't have to be because of something that intensely personal, but you have to feel so passionate that you can overcome incredible odds, incredible sort of downside.
No, listen, if you're going to wake up in the morning and face the brutality of being an entrepreneur every day, kind of helps that you have some personal vested interest in it. And you know what, to your mom, I have to say, like, because we have this, Catholic thing, we both grew up with it. The Catholic moms were all trying to protect their gay kids and put them into the priesthood. Because did they try to push your brother?
No, but my mom wanted to be a nun, so
right. So there's
deeply Catholic.
Deeply Catholic. And you know this, growing up Catholic, it was like, if you want to save your Catholic son from being abused or murdered for being gay, there's a safe place to steer them to, which is being a priest.
Yeah.
And that was the big kind of like thing that I have a hard time reconciling about growing up Catholic, which is like, why did we have this whole thing where we hate these people on the books, but they're our family, and we're putting them into the church, and the church's position is to hate them. And meanwhile, if they're gay, they're going into the church so that they can find somebody to love who's another priest and do it on the down low. Yeah. It's this bizarre, impossible thing to resolve.
One of many things to change.
Well, the Catholic Church then with the pedophilia rings and what
There's
they did.
There's a significant number of change.org petitions around this issue as well.
All right, listen, I got to stop for a commercial break. It's gotten very heavy in here. It's what happens when you have a bunch of Catholic schoolboys start talking about their childhoods. You went to Catholic boys' school?
I didn't, but I was confirmed and went through sort of Sunday school for a very long time.
Yeah, I went for my confirmation and they kicked me out. That's a whole story I'll tell you over lunch or something. I got kicked out. Sister Therese kicked me out because I set off firecrackers outside the church. My confirmation, canceled my confirmation 2 months before I was being confirmed. I got like halfway through.
You got an F in confirmation.
I got kicked out. I'm like, I think the only person who got excommunicated. I'll tell you what happened with Sister Therese and me getting kicked out of the church. It's haunted me, actually, when we get back from commercial break. Hey, everybody. Let me stop for a moment, this amazing episode, and tell you about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Yes, they are a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. And Scott Walker is the founder of that company, and he is a personal friend of mine, and he does a great job working with startups. I have literally introduced him to dozens, maybe hundreds now, of startups, and they all rave about the services of the Walker Corporate Law Group because their lawyers have decades of experience. You're not going to get junior associates who are getting on-the-job training with your startup. No. They're going to help you with mergers and acquisitions, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies, formation, all this kind of stuff, fundraising, and they're really great at it. And they do fixed fees. They don't want to surprise people with crazy bills. They think that billable hours can reward inefficiency, so they'll just be fair with you. And that's what I love about them, because if you're a startup, you don't want to get that sticker shock and get a huge bill. Make sure you use the Walker Corporate Law Group, and you can do that by calling Scott Walker at 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. You can email him, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can visit walkercorporatelaw.com as well. Scott at walkercorporatelaw.com, and let Scott Ed Walker on Twitter know, at Scott Ed Walker, know that you watch the program and you appreciate him supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. One of my oldest advertisers, one of my oldest friends in the industry, just a great guy, a total mensch, and he really takes care of the startups who work with him. Thank you, Scott Walker, for supporting This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get back to this program. Come on. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the program. Ben and I are having a really deep conversation about change in the world, and we're actually talking about our very personal stories growing up Catholic, his brother coming out of the closet and having to deal with, what gay people have dealt with for too long, and then this amazing thing that change.org actually really just got the Boy Scouts of America to finally effing change. That is so, you can be so proud of that. Literally, if you drop the microphone now and you never do another thing and the company goes out of business, you always have that.
I mean, I think
Huge.
what's exciting is literally there's
Huge.
more than a dozen victories every single day, many of which are in gay rights, but around women's issues, acid attacks, things like, saving local parks to literally changing sort of FGM, female genital mutilation, not one of the most fun topics to talk about.
Killing me.
Yeah, I mean, huge, epic changes that are happening because of mobilization online in ways that people would have never expected before.
Let me ask you a question. So what happened with Sister Teresa? She kicked me out of the church. My poor grandmother was like really upset.
Devastated.
Well, they had the party plan. They had to cancel something. And I was like, you know what? F it. I don't need the church. I'm out. Sister Teresa called one of the brothers at Severian and said, I kicked this kid out. It was confirmation. He never made it. And it's living with guilt. She was living with guilt. She was in retirement home. And they asked me if I would meet with her and then get my confirmation when I was a senior in high school. And you know what I said?
It's your job to be guilty.
And you know what I said? No.
Have you been in touch since?
She died. She was very old at the time. And I actually feel a little bit guilty about it. Like it was something I could have done. But then also I started feeling like, well, I was 16. I was 12 when she kicked me out. I was 16 when she tried to reconcile all this.
You can't be culpable under the age of 18.
But I have to say, it does, I do think about it sometimes. Not every day, but I think about it every couple of years. I'm like, oh, poor Sister Teresa. She's in heaven right now. And she kicked me out.
I'm sorry to bring it out.
Listen, there's bigger issues people have with the Catholic Church than mine. But how do you reconcile what exactly is permissible on the site? For example, there are people who believe, it's their religious belief, that gays or women shouldn't drive, or Sharia law, I think, there's a lot of things in there.
Yeah.
Where if you're practicing Catholicism, according to the, certain breeds of it, certain strains are pretty hardcore. So if I put something up there and I said, I would like a petition to stop women from driving in New York City because I am a Muslim who lives under this law and women should not be driving, which they're not allowed to in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
What do you do with that petition?
I mean, in the same way that you could tweet that and you can post it on Facebook and record a video on YouTube, you can also do that on Change.org. As long as it's explicit hate speech or potentially lead to violence or personal harm, we don't remove the campaigns. Okay, hold on a second.
Hate speech, personal harm, we get those.
Yep.
What if it's bigoted?
If it's bigoted, I mean, it really depends. This is the thing on the language itself. Are they sort of using the kind of words that are sort of condemned by the Southern Poverty Law Center as things that are characterized as hate words or hate speech? And so it really, I don't actually, this is our policy team, wakes up every morning, looks at the flag campaigns. There's 1,000 petitions a day that get launched. And sometimes there might be one or two that hit this. The most frequent, actually, are things around bullying. So the most common are kids that start campaigns calling out other kids.
For being bullies?
No. It's actually bullying other kids. This will happen every so often.
Oh, I'll post this kid is a dweeb.
Yes, yeah. And we'll remove those campaigns.
Which is what people used to do on, what was that Q&A site that a bunch of kids killed themselves from? Ask.fm or no?
I don't know which one. But there's a lot of these. I mean, there's actually a petition right now.
To stop these.
To stop a lot of these things. In fact, one of the campaigns this year.
Wasn't secret, was the mobile one. There's another one that's a mobile one. Producer Jackie put in the Yik Yak is the mobile location one that they've had to ban in schools.
So there's a huge Change.org petition around this from a bunch of people that were bullied themselves. And there's a mom who started a campaign last year whose daughter committed suicide because of online attacks, not specifically on Yik Yak, but in general. And she started a petition to pass a law in her state, Illinois, to actually effectively address cyberbullying more aggressive than ever before, and won with 200,000 people.
And Ask.fm was the other one, and I think a lot of my friends actually were investors in Ask.fm. I don't know if it was Saka or Kevin Rose. I'll have to look it up. Jackie, look it up. But Ashton Kutcher, I think, might have. Look up who were the investors in Ask.fm. And then they found out, oh my God. And they kind of shut this thing down because this was a really good example of you build a platform, you see what the kids do with it. You're in the same position. What do people do with it?
Nobody wants it to happen, but it emerges, and you have a responsibility to. We feel this as well. If there are things that we think lend into bullying, but what's actually most exciting are the campaigns that have gone most viral are against bullying. Right? There's these laws. In fact, just in France, President Hollande, the president, just responded to a Change.org campaign from another mom in France whose daughter committed suicide because of bullying. And they're passing now a national law, a national hotline because of this Change.org campaign in the country, hundreds of thousands of people joining. So I think that though there are increasing problems with what's happening online with bullying, there's also online tools that can be used to address this.
Listen, every time a new platform comes out, people will use it for everything. So when this new device called paper came out, people did bad things. When the phone came out, when cars came out, every platform, television, radio, whatever, CB, people are going to do wacky stuff on it. They're going to abuse each other. They're going to act like human beings for good and worse. But then I guess how you police it. So let's get back to you for a second. Yep. And let me ask a couple more questions because I'm really interested in how you manage this because I think it's going to be the issue of our time, which is how do you define hate speech? I don't think it's going to be an issue of our time. I think it's going to be the issue of 2016. We just saw on Twitter, Twitter is struggling with this issue of like when somebody says you deserve to be harassed, clearly as a joke.
Yep.
But then people who are their followers are kind of crazy and then actually harass them. And then harass them by just saying like, I think you're fat. Like, is it freedom of speech? Is it not? Da, da, da. So with your platform, if I said I want a petition that we should put the Confederate flag on buildings in the South, would you allow it? Yes or no?
We would be, depending on how the wording is framed.
Okay, I'm just going to frame it just like I did.
Framed, like in that fashion, I think it's not likely we'd remove it. I mean, I'm not on our policy team, but my sense is that we would not remove that. And the reason is it's legitimate free speech that does not explicitly cause harm or advocate for sort of violence or discrimination of a certain group. Now, there are
that doesn't mean you're featuring it on the homepage either.
Yeah, this is sort of like organically, 30,000 campaigns launch a month. If we were explicitly promoting this, that would be a very different situation.
Right.
But
would
the
you
fact
allow
that it
the
exists,
person from the, Confederate flag? Would you allow the person from the Confederate flag society or whatever, whoever is promoting that bullshit? Would you allow them to then use the ad platform to acquire customers? Or is that where you kind of can draw the line?
So if it's flagged by users as offensive to them, then we wouldn't let them use the ad platform.
Perfect.
But there's a different, just like Google, there's a different sort of ad policy as just organic content.
It's a little bit of a
higher
higher benchmark to get through to ads.
It's also the case that if that group, for example, were actually a hate group, so the text wasn't hate speech, but the group was a known hate group, that might be different. If the comments that ended up being generated from clear supporters, you might suspend the comments. So look, we're all trying to, and I mean we by sort of, as you know, a lot of companies you're invested in, a lot of people and platforms that exist, none of us want this to exist. They don't want hate speech to exist. And the question is, how do you draw a line in a way that doesn't say, well, we're going to absolve ourselves of all responsibility because it's hard to define. How do you get into the muddy middle and try to peel away the most offensive, most problematic stuff, avoid harm, while still actually allowing people as much free speech as possible? And that is not easy, but I agree with you. This is the thing that we're all trying to deal with.
It's interesting, too, when you think about like religion, getting back to that issue. Religious people believe it is their right to be bigoted. And to say women can do X and other women can't. So a religious group could put on there a petition to stop women from driving. We're back to that example.
Yeah.
As long as they didn't phrase it in an offensive way.
There could be a campaign. I think what would be interesting is there's likely to be a counter campaign that would be far more popular and viral. One of the things we find is interesting is petitions that are rooted in some degree of, I would say, dislike or sort of anger, oftentimes are much less viral than those that are rooted in personal stories and that are inspiring. And the reason is, if these social media is the primary platform through which these are being propagated, being spread. People in general, not always,
don't want to like or retweet or amplify that.
They want to associate themselves with things that make them look good. And so it's actually a structural advantage online right now for content that is more inspiring and less that's hateful. I mean, outrageous stuff, that will also go viral, but things that are hateful or discriminatory, nobody wants to share that in a way that their job, someone in their job
went
might.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But like being pro Confederate flag or some nonsense. But here's a question for you. There was a basic concept of human rights. Could you not say, and I'm just thinking out loud here with Twitter too, because they are kind of a corollary platform. I'm thinking out loud here. If somebody was against core basic human rights, would a platform be able to say that that is their benchmark? In other words, here's the United Declaration of Human Rights. If you're pro-torture, which is against it, or you're pro-death penalty, you'd be against it. So no, you couldn't make that. Because there are some people. Are you pro-death penalty?
Personally, I'm not pro-death penalty, but you can start a petition advocating
and be
for the
pro-death
death penalty on the site.
Yeah. See, that's where it gets interesting because
it is difficult. There's not, if there were one clear sort of benchmark or barometer against which people could measure this content, we would have, I think, already done it. I think that they will become, because the constellation of different players that are trying to figure this out all autonomously, as we all learn more and more, there will become sort of, I think, people coming together around basic principles and standing.
Yeah.
I think it also will be the case that people will recognize that the platforms that are allowing this aren't implicitly endorsing it by virtue of it existing on the platform.
That's the thing that these idiots need to understand.
Yeah.
I've got all these idiots who are like, you follow Milo Yiannopoulos from Breitbart. I'm like, yeah, I follow 20,000 people. Yeah. I follow evil, idiotic people because I want to know what they think. I read everything. I've seen Leni Riefenstahl's movie and the biography of Leni Riefenstahl. Does not make me pro-Nazi. Yeah. By the way, she's one of the 10 most significant filmmakers of all time, and her biography, or the biography about her, is a phenomenal read about psychology, whatever. If you were to watch Triumph of the Will or Olympia or The Blue Light or any of her films, like, you might just be into film and be curious.
It's also the case that these are generally outliers. If you look at sort of the percentage of content on Twitter that people are actually talking about, it is literally a fraction of a percent.
Correct.
And they are obsessed with this. And it's not that it's not important. It is actually highly relevant, and I think mostly for women and the attacks that women are subjected to, quite violent. And this is specifically around assault threats.
Yeah.
That is a quite significant one. Besides that, I think that it's a small percentage of the content.
How do you think we deal with that? Because that is a disconcerting one, is that women on these platforms, especially the anonymous ones, which would be Reddit, Twitter, not Facebook, YouTube was anonymous. I think it's not anymore. And then it is again, because you made you use Google Plus, which made it
surprises me
semi-anonymous. What should you do? Because I mean, if you're on an anonymous platform and I can create 100 handles an hour, can Twitter or Reddit or YouTube ever hope? I mean,
the content is fairly consistent. There's two things. So one is statements that are generally offensive. The second is personal threats. Those are very different. And in the latter camp, actually the structure and the language that is used is fairly both explicit and consistent. The whole idea is that it is an explicit threat. If it's not that offensive. The kind of other general potentially offensive speech we've been talking about, let's say around the Confederate flag or around gay rights, that's not targeted at anybody. That may be bad, but that is more generic and difficult to deal with.
You're
that is
not
hard.
Specifically targeting your brother or my
an individual.
Cousin or whatever.
It seems to me an unsustainable proposition for its own user base, I think, for Twitter to continue to maintain that. I mean, they're losing. I know many prominent women who do not use Twitter simply because of that, and that will happen more and more.
I think the only solution, and people are very much misconstruing my position, which is not that I'm pro harassment. Obviously, duh. But my position is, I don't know that you can solve the problem until you get rid of anonymity. They basically have to make it like Facebook. Any online service that has anonymity benefits free speech and whistleblowers and actually transgender people who want to have a pseudonym, who are fighting on Facebook to have a pseudonym that's not their real name. But then you gain by having pseudonyms. These horrific, the cost rather, the gain is anonymity for people who need anonymity, which is a small subset of people, and parity. But then you gain, you wind up having all this wacky, abusive stuff.
Yeah, and I will say the one last thing I'd say on this is there are actually people in the UK, a prominent journalist, female journalist, had started a Change.org campaign calling on Twitter to have a simple change, which is a report link in the permalink so people can more easily report content, which has actually generated a huge amount more data about the things that are most
That would
important.
be perfect. Yes, you should be able to flag it. But you know what's happening now is they're flagging. There are groups of what they call them social justice warriors.
That are in coordinated flagging intentionally.
They're in IRC chat rooms, so they flag me all the time. And they put me on a block list because I was just talking about free speech, and that's kind of an important thing too. And they put me on the block list, which was actually kind of delightful because then all the social justice warriors adopt each other's block lists. So I just they don't see anything I do, which is great. But I think they have to make verification anybody can buy verification. Like the fact that I have verification, other people don't, or Milo had it, and then they take it away. Just make it so people could pay. This would be my Change.org petition. Let people pay $1 or $10 one time to verify their name and their address is associated with the account. Because then you know what you could do? You could make the default only show a real name accounts. So on change.org, can I put a pseudonym for a petition?
People cannot put a pseudonym for the petition.
So Ed Snowden couldn't be like, the
some random
ice cream man to protect himself.
In countries in which it is dangerous, so that it actually is allowed. So it's not that we prohibit
in Iran,
every
you could put one up.
So in certain countries we do allow it. We don't encourage it, but we recognize the threat that people are under. I mean, look, people are starting petitions in sort of. So we have staff in 19 countries. They're starting them in dozens and dozens more countries. Oftentimes having impact.
You have staff in those countries. Like what?
So
what country are you most concerned about
Russia.
Your employees in?
So the only country in which we have a substantial presence, but not have a physical presence, is Russia. We have Russian staff, but they don't live in the country.
Thank God.
Yeah.
What about their families?
But there's, we just hit 7 million users in Russia. I mean, these are literally victories that are happening every week. And so right now, I think one of the things we're most excited about is not just in the U.S. The mobilization, the change that you can make by getting citizens together to challenge traditional sources of authority is just a tremendous opportunity.
How do you get to change.org? Is it /RU?
If you just pull down on the bottom right-hand side of the footer, you'll just see Russia language. And when you click Russia language, it also shows Russian petitions.
I got it right up on the screen. What does Putin think of this? What does the government think about it?
So what's interesting is Putin has actually personally received petitions delivered from Change.org users in the past. There's a huge number of victories that have happened. His cabinet initially condemned the platform, and now we're actually directly engaging in the platform. There's been multiple hospitals that have been protected recently, major multinational corporations that have changed policies because of it in Russia. And so I think the government's realizing it's inevitable.
I'm looking at it, and it a lot of it is around helping. It's a lot of very easy ones to agree with, stop slaughtering seals and get this guy a wheelchair, and and homeless people. Are you purposely steering it away from the anti-Putin stuff to just sort of?
We are not doing it, but I think that I would suspect that citizens are less likely to feel like they have the potential to impact the Kremlin directly as they have potential to change the institutions that impact their lives. One of the things that's interesting, if you go back quickly to America, historically petitions have had a very bad reputation, understandably so, because they've mostly been to Congress, to the president, to the UN, with no real theory of change. There's no real plausibility there. It's ending global hunger, ending climate change, things that are incredibly difficult to do. But what's powerful is if you start campaigns at your city council, the school board, the mayor, they have huge potential. And so that's what's happened in the US, and that's been exported now. So in Russia, it's people addressing the St. Petersburg legislature.
Yep.
It's people that are addressing their sort of local city council member or the businesses in they work. And those are where the 99.9% of decisions that impact people's lives are not at the federal or national level. It's down in the local level.
I wanted to ask you also was about this, when the president gets involved. Has there been a time that Obama has gotten involved in a petition personally? Responded? Or is it always this group of people, we the people team,
So the campaign in which I would say he was sort of most personally involved was actually the Trayvon Martin campaign initially. So Trayvon Martin, when he was tragically killed in Florida, several years ago, his parents, before it was a media story at all, his parents started Change.org campaign. They had no attention. It goes massively viral. Millions of people join. And then the president starts to engage. And so we had been connected to, we work on a fairly regular basis, connected different decision makers. He didn't specifically cite the petition. But in that case, and then in the most recent case of Jason Rezaian, the Washington Post reporter that the Washington Post started a petition to defend, who was just released by the Iranians, the president also addressed that at the National Press Club.
Okay, let's talk about this new platform.
Yeah.
Change Politics. It's a mobile platform, and the goal is to increase citizen participation in elections. So the idea here is, forget about a singular issue. Let's get you to actually vote.
So it's a couple things. I think there are two things. Right now, I think
and is this a different product? Is this like a...
It's changepolitics.org.
Okay.
Changepolitics.org. And what's interesting is, we have a hugely problematic, I think, election process. You have the horse race, which is dominated by fundraising and by polls.
Sucks.
And then after that, you go to the polls, you look at a paper ballot. It has dozens of different offices, and people feel like they have no idea who those people are, have very little information. That is the basis upon which people are making decisions for the most important things in our democracy, and that is a tragedy. And so we have built a platform that allows us to shift power from parties and paid ads to citizens in two ways. First, allowing anyone to directly ask questions of the candidates. And
like I
vote
see
in the
this one here,
questions.
the U.S. has the largest percentage of citizens in the penal system compared to any other country in the world. What do you think accounts for this?
And we've gotten all these candidates to, from sort of candidates to commit to responding directly. Rubio just committed to responding directly to campaigns. So there's questions from citizens. So that's one.
Can you imagine if Trump gets on this platform? He doesn't know any of this stuff.
Well, so it's interesting. So we have almost everyone but Trump thus far. So Jeb is involved, Christie is involved, Kasich is involved, Hillary and Bernie. And what's interesting is, what you can offer elected officials, if you give them a direct channel of communication to citizens, to voters on the issues that they care about most, they'll engage directly. Right? They don't want to have to go through the media. They'd rather have direct connection.
This is why
and so this is a disintermediation.
San Francisco so easily. If I choose to run for mayor of this city,
Oh, that would be so great.
which would be so hilarious, like literally watching Trump do this, it has literally inspired me. I just literally registered mayorjason.com. It's just a joke, really, to be totally honest. It's completely a joke.
Don't say that now. You want to give yourself plausible deniability.
But here's the thing. I had somebody say, we want you to run. And there's a person who would put $1 million behind it. And they're like, we want you to run, but we want you to run to scare people at how bad it would be if a Giuliani Bloomberg type like you actually took over and tried to GSD the town. So that will drive people to Ed Lee or other people who we can kind of steer, and they'll just be our puppets and do what we want. So
Remarkably cynical.
Well, yes. But anyway, this is what I love about this is it plays into exactly what I think politics should be in the future, which is forget about all of the constituents who are paying you. Can you have a well-reasoned debate and run a test like a lean startup like Eric Ries and Steve Blank, sort of codified in their books? If we want to make San Francisco better and traffic is fracked, I have a very easy process. We're going to run a test for the next 10 weeks, and everybody's going to be part of the test. For the next 10 weeks, nobody gets to park on Geary, nobody gets to park on Van Ness, and nobody gets to park on this 10-square block radius during rush hour in the financial district.
Yep.
No parking, but it's a 10-week test. And all the data is going to be accounted for, and it's all going to be shared. And then we're going to do a vote, and everybody online can vote, and you can put all your comments, but we're going to do a test. And everything we do is going to be test-based. I would win in 2 seconds. Do I have your vote, Ben?
So what I love about it, I will vote for that test. And what I love about it is we want a platform that
kind of want your vote.
Far more people should be participating in primaries, for example, should be running for office. And if we have an opportunity for you to directly communicate to citizens at no cost, so anyone who runs can directly have an equal opportunity to respond to citizen questions and make proposals, you have a far fairer field for anyone to be able to run.
That.
So
wait a
that's the
second.
first.
Are you saying that if we put the mayoral election up here, that I could be, as just a citizen Jason, I could say I'm announcing that I am going to consider being Mayor Jason, and I can go in here and start answering questions side by side with Ed Lee?
So you would have to.
have
to actually announce? Now we are considering what is the threshold. Is there a threshold preceding? There have been a number of former elected officials who love the idea. They actually want to weigh in and respond as well. And so can you create a marketplace of ideas where you might have formally announced sort of elected officials, or rather candidates,
that test,
but others that have a certain threshold of credibility and potential to actually be able
Twitter,
to
the blue check mark.
If you're a verified account on Twitter, you are in. And so
no, but that's a really fascinating idea, because right now, in order to participate in the mayoral election, you have to get a certain number of signatures. Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, tell me what we need to get done to me to run for mayor. But I think you need 10,000 signatures.
Yep. So I don't know the number of signatures.
It's
but
some
you need the
thousands,
threshold.
tens of thousands of signatures. So I got to go on the street and get 10,000 signatures. But by the way, with the Jason Nation, it's not going to be a problem, Ben. But with this platform, if you could say, hey, if you got this is the way to do it. If you went to changepolitics.org and you could get 1,000 people to tweet that they would be interested in you running for mayor.
Qualifies you.
That qualifies you.
Yeah.
That is so genius.
And I actually quite like this. What's interesting is it's also the case, the kind of responses and engagement you would get from outsiders who aren't traditional political players would oftentimes be so much more compelling than the actual candidates.
Right, you get Mark Andreessen or myself or Chamath or some other megalomaniac tech person would be like, I'm not going to run for mayor. I don't want to be in politics, but I want to shape it. And I want to show that if I debate these knuckleheads, I will trounce them.
Well, there's a second thing here that's interesting about
I
sort
would
of influence.
trounce Ed Lee, Gavin Newsom. Those guys, they would be roadkill.
Gavin's pretty practiced.
No, I would torch him. You know what? Too practiced. I know Gavin's weakness. Too slick. Too good looking.
The second thing, and this is what I want you to do as well.
You don't want a 10. You want like a 7. Like I know I'm not like a. Hey, the guy's a good looking guy.
Solid.
Great
but not
hair.
Scary.
He's a little. That guy's like a Ken doll. He's too good looking, too perfect. Everything's too perfect. You want some guy like me who a little overweight, receding hairline, not perfect. Much better.
So funny. So I would say the second thing, and this is where I think that someone like you, for example, has huge potential power. So the second thing we'll do is, let's say you have this facilitated debate. I want to then walk into a polling booth. And I want to say, well, I look at this ballot. It has a bunch of different names, and all I see is party ID. I have no information, but I'm sitting 80% of us have a smartphone. I want to be able to say, who do I trust the most? I want to follow Jason. I want to follow Dreesen. I want to follow, Reid Hoffman. I want to follow the people I respect the most.
Reid Hoffman for mayor.
All of their, I want to follow their opinions, their perspectives, and then overlays on my ballot. I look at a digital ballot, and I can actually read the endorsements of the people that I trust and respect the most. So now if I'm voting for like city council or school board or state representative or ballot initiative, where most people have no idea, any information is all spin. People are basing their vote on party affiliation and name recognition, which is ads. This is why money in politics matters so much. The reason money in politics matters is because you have low information voters. They don't have any real idea. And the best way to influence them is to buy a bunch of ads that influences their vote. Yeah. But if people are basing their vote on the opinions of the people they trust the most, the people they respect,
they're going to do a lot better.
Then trust matters more than money in politics.
Well, if you
and that
look
is the goal.
What's so brilliant about your concept is look at what happened with this Fakaka proposition against gay marriage that these guys ran in L.A., the church. Who was it? What was the church that ran it? I mean, what producer Jack, you fill me in? I can't remember. One of these crazy churches. This crazy church confused everybody.
Yep. This happens. It's written intentionally, not just in this case, but in many, to be obscure.
Yes.
And if you could say, look, for any given ballot initiative, if I could say, I want the 10 people that I respect to trust the most in real time on my ballot, give me the one paragraph outline, you cut through the noise with custom information. And then the last thing I'd say is someone like you, for example, let's say you now have in San Francisco 10,000 followers who trust your endorsement. If your endorsement appears on the mobile phone of 10,000 voters in San Francisco right before they vote, it is so much more valuable than $10,000, than $100,000. It's huge penetration.
I love it. It's so disruptive, dude. I mean, chances are it won't work, but if you make this work,
this is going to work.
Oh, dude, I love this. You know what I love about what you're doing is you did something crazy with change.org. And listen, you knew you were going to win certain battles, right? Like if American Airlines loses your luggage and they give you $100, it's bullshit. Like whatever, you can win those. And then you won the big one, the Boy Scouts. You get a little bit more confident. Like, hey, we can really actually affect big change in the world. And now you're going after your Moby Dick, which is politics. Like this is your Moby Dick.
It is
you may take him down.
To change.
It is possible. I believe you.
Somebody had told you 7 years ago, maybe not you, but someone else. That we're going to have a smartphone app that can dramatically transform transportation. So much so that in a few years, anybody can, with the push of a button, get a self-driving car pull up to them at almost zero marginal cost to go anywhere in the city. They think you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, and we're halfway there.
And it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I told you, it will literally be the case that the majority of voters in the future will walk into a polling booth, look at this ballot, which is totally obscure with no information. It's the worst user experience I could possibly imagine. Literally hasn't changed for 250 years. That ballot looks the exact same effectively, just names and party ID. And if you can pull out your phone and use the people and organizations you trust, trivially easy in 60 seconds to inform your vote, like whoever owns the real estate of the mobile phone and the ballot box, it's the most important real estate in all of politics. That is huge power.
Listen, dude, super impressive what you're working on, and I could talk to you all day. Ben Rattray, I got it?
That's right.
Rattray.
You're in.
Got it. Is the phenomenal founder and CEO of Change.org. Check out changepolitics.org. Super awesome. If you're in one of those 19 countries, get involved. And listen, if you're a nonprofit, one of my first jobs working for Amnesty International.
Oh, really?
I was a micro computer specialist. Microcomputer specialist. You know what that means?
I have no idea what that means.
So in the early days, if when PCs first came out, there were like all these mainframes. And if you were working on the desktop computers, they called them microcomputers because they were small. So that would be like saying it was saying a desktop.
Yeah.
So that was like if you worked on a PC-AT or a PC-XT or a whatever, compact computer, that was microcomputer. So I was a specialist on microcomputers, which means I knew how to put a network interface.
So you're a human rights activist at heart.
I am actually. That was like my original passion I just felt like human rights on a global basis, like a coordinated effort in that, was one of the most important things. And if you look at what Amnesty International did to literally send bags of mail to people, this is pre-email. Although when I was there, my first job there was to create a database in Paradox of women's human rights offenses. And when I tell you this was like awful stuff, like, El Salvador and killing fields and China and just, places where dictators do horrible things especially sadistic things to women, gang rape, all kinds of insanity. And they were like, we have all these case files. And literally you go to work and you go into a room the size of the studio and there's just case files. And you're like, that shelf is everything we know about El Salvador. That shelf is everything we know about this dictatorship, this place in Africa. And you're like, oh my God, that's a lot of case files. And then, ABC News would call or 60 Minutes would call and say, hey, we need to know about this.
You got to pull into that paper.
And you had to go into the paper. So I basically created a database for them in Paradox of all the offenses and everything going on. And then some days they'd be like, yeah, here's the 50 new cases today that we have. And there would be interns there typing it all in, and then we could actually sort it. And when they started to see the statistics of what they actually had, it really became powerful. And I realized, wow, this is like really a cool use of technology. The statistics and the numbers and the trends, they didn't have any of that data. And then they had it at their fingertips once it was in this Paradox database. And I had 4 computers, I remember, like it was yesterday, in like a hallway set up. And networking had just come out in 1989 or 90. So I put network interface cards in each computer. They didn't have Ethernet ports. It was RG58 Ethernet cables, and had to crimp the cables. So you had to take a cable, like your cable modem, and crimp it, put a BNC connector on, and then attach it to the back of your computer for them to all connect to the same database.
Back in the day.
I
think what's exciting that I'd say about that is that now what's happening is anytime there's a human rights abuse that used to lead to an Amnesty International case, the family of that woman or that person, that journalist, will literally start a Change the Door campaign, oftentimes the next day, and leverage the mass media to sort of get rapid response, mobilization to shine a light on it. So the Amnesty International is still hugely important and be able to have the institutional infrastructure, but actually citizens can do it now.
Why don't we hear about them anymore? People just don't care about human rights anymore?
No, I think people immensely. I mean, Change the Door campaigns around human rights happen all the time. The difference is Amnesty, they're slower and more deliberate about the cases they adopt. And so oftentimes the cases they adopt have already gone viral online. I think they have a hugely important role to play as an institution with resources, longevity. And on the internet, what's been interesting is you've seen now families get involved directly without needing to sort of wait for an institution to adopt their case.
Got it. Yeah, so you're like, Amnesty can look at change.org and say, okay, here are the cases, let's research these cases. So in a way, you're sort of like surfacing them for them to then figure out if they're going to take them on and send them.
And then leverage the 500,000 people that have already joined. We've got a movement on our hands right now and a case that we can go pursue.
And then do they get access to all those people? How do you work it out with them?
No, we let the petition creator can actually message all the people that have joined their campaign. So with the consent of the campaign creator, they have access to all those people.
So if my family member was a political prisoner in Iran, and I created it and I got 500,000 people, I can actually email all those people.
Completely.
Through the system, and then if Amnesty said, we're taking on your case, can you tell them to go here? They could email that link, and you're not proprietary about, hey, which platform you use.
Not at all. Not at all. And they can they can let Amnesty post directly, give updates, do fundraising asks, do offline protest asks, write physical letters. And the goal is how do you aggregate people that care about an issue. Don't just sign a petition once. They are part of a movement that you can then go back and ask them for subsequent action over time.
Is your business break even yet? When will it be? And
not yet. In the next couple of years.
Next couple of years.
Expect it to be.
Do you need to raise more money? You raised a lot of money. Are you going to get there?
We will likely raise one more round of investment. And then
go public.
It is unlikely we're going to go public.
How great would that be, though? if like you were a public company and you made money and like gave profits.
Oh, we think it's a hugely important thing for us to.
Will you hit profitability and then be
profitability? Oh yeah, I mean,
what happens with the profits then as a B Corp?
We'll end up doing a number of different things. You can buy back equity directly. You can sort of give distributions.
So you could buy the shares back from Reid Hoffman or whatever if he wanted to, and then he could donate that to somebody else.
And staff.
Oh, that's it. I never heard that with B Corps. So the people who are on staff, if you start making $10 million a year from, getting lead gen for nonprofits or whoever, you could then pay the staff off for putting their time in there and be competitive with other startups that give equity.
We give equity in the same way that any other startup, and instead of just waiting for the small chance that someone's going to hit big on an IPO, we'll be able to over time do private secondaries that we will facilitate as a company. I think that independent of us, I think that companies should be considering this more frequently.
I think you got to be a little more aggressive. I think you got to put like on the homepage, petitioning McDonald's. Let McDonald's. This is what I think you should do. You should put one crazy corporate thing on the homepage. Petition McDonald's, petition Ben & Jerry's to make like a flavor of ice cream or to bring the McRib back, whatever. Carvel, the Fudgy the Whale. Because it's always like they have these crazy campaigns. And just put it in a yellow background and say sponsored. If they click on it, say this is how we pay for change.org. How much would
we can
McDonald's
certainly put sponsored. These kind of petitions already exist, actually.
They do
people,
them like at
people
BuzzFeed.
petition Pepsi to create Crystal Pepsi, and the person who started the petition got 30,000 people to join, and they literally sent him like a custom-made pack of Crystal Pepsi.
Honestly, I don't really want to incite any violence or get my blue check mark, but I'm going to punch that person in the face. Like Crystal Pepsi.
You don't like Crystal Pepsi?
It's disgusting.
I loved it.
I never. I don't even remember. What was it? What was Crystal Pepsi?
Was it like clear lemon? Pepsi.
Oh, it was clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, I remember Crystal Pepsi now. It was just clear Pepsi. It didn't taste different.
It's the same thing.
Did it taste different?
It tastes a little more syrupy, actually, if you can imagine.
I remember somebody was selling like their last case of Crystal Pepsi online, and it was like, it's going to taste horrible. It's like, it's gone bad.
The people will start petitions about bringing back
Please tell me that person didn't win.
All the time. Oh, that person definitely won. I mean, they brought back Crystal Pepsi in a small way, and they got sent a major package. And there'll be people that petition. Look, Taco Bell petitioned, to get an emoji, a taco emoji, and won. And there's now a taco emoji in large part because Taco Bell started the petition. And then
I think you have to be, honestly, you're not being cutthroat enough about the revenue. I think you should do like a cutthroat revenue thing where you put these brands on the homepage and you say, we're going to sell one spot, and you communicate it to everybody and say, hey, the way we make this work is we let McDonald's or Coca-Cola or whoever let you do your like people's choice. And then can you imagine what they would pay? Charge them $3 per email, whatever. And if you join the campaign that you really want this type of burrito or you want a coupon, like I don't think it will take back away from what you're doing.
I don't think coupon, but the burrito thing, I mean, again, this organically occurs already, so it's possible we can lean into it more. But one thing I'd say about the petitions too is they're not all that serious, right? I mean, a lot of them
That's fun, yeah.
But one of my favorite early ones was Nickelback. They were going to play at the halftime show of the Detroit Lions for Thanksgiving. This is a few years back. And there's a Detroit fan who's a University of Michigan student who starts a petition to get Nickelback kicked out. And 50,000 people joined in the first 5 hours. ESPN covered it. Nickelback literally created a video to respond to the petition. And we think that getting people more actively engaged, calling on things for change, is actually a good thing, regardless of what it is.
Disbar lawyer who wants to legalize the murder of LGBT people. What? Really? Come on. That is nuts. It's just nuts.
There's a lot of crazy stuff out there, but what's interesting now is you have the ability to easily start a campaign to address any of it. And people literally will watch something like on Netflix, or they'll watch something on a show or see something in the news, start a change.org campaign in a minute.
I can't wait to figure out where this whole thing is going to occur with I can't wait to figure out what this whole making a murderer thing winds up. You saw this, right?
I didn't even see it yet.
You haven't watched it?
No. I mean, there's this massive campaign on the site. Is it pretty good?
It's amazing. Did you see the Jinx?
No.
Oh, dude, what are you, like
I'm working.
Protesting like the amazing state of the golden age of television? All right, listen. You have to watch Making a Murderer and the Jinx.
Yeah.
Andrew Jarecki did the Jinx. I don't know who did Making a Murderer. These two films are amazing. Talk about injustice in the criminal justice system. But no spoilers. The Jinx one, what's really amazing about both of them, to be honest, is both of them are still in play.
They're live cases.
These are live. These are very. I mean, Making a Murderer is a very live case. Like the guys are still in. Well, anyway, And the thing that's interesting about them is, like a lot of things in the justice system, there can be things that are corrupt and there can be people who are guilty. It could all be happening concurrently. And the whole different like shades of truth, Rashomon style, like you have your version of the truth, I have my version of the truth, Jackie has her version of the truth, and then there's the actual truth, and then there is what is truth. Like it really kind of like messes with your mind. I think it's one of the interesting things about politics in general is like we're all trying to figure out exactly what is the right thing to do. I think people really want to do the right thing, but they just get so caught up in not having a way to objectively look at it, right? Because everything's become so polarized. That's why I think changepolitics.org is going to be so effective. Because you're doing it on, you're not saying, you're not addressing Hillary versus Obama or versus Trump versus Sarah Palin, whatever. It's like you're addressing the actual issue.
Yep, equal opportunity to respond to the things people care about most.
You gonna do video around that?
Yeah, so candidates can submit video responses directly to the candidates.
That's
people
good
can
for me.
submit video questions.
Good for me. I'm good on video. Let people hear it.
A lot of practice.
Well, the thing is, I'm not going to be polished. Gavin Newsom's going to give some BS answer. He's going to be all polished, and I'm going to come on and be like, "Yeah, I don't really know the answer to this, but I talked to some of my friends who are really smart, and here's what they say, and here's what I think the test should be."
I think Trump has
I'm going to be so
people
relatable.
Love authenticity, although they perceive authenticity in a way that I think others might be skeptical.
The Trump ascension is really, in my mind, people are voting against the two-party system more than they're voting for Trump. Is that your perception?
They're voting out of incredible frustration about what they see to be a feckless, ineffective sort of infrastructure of politics. And this is the one person that has, one, told them that he will transform it, and two, has the sort of confidence I think necessary to communicate to them the sense that he might be able to do it.
And he doesn't care. That's the other great thing. He's like, yeah, I called them anchor babies. You don't like the term. I think it's very politically correct of you. I don't think anybody means any harm by the term. And so you care about it, but I've never heard anybody else say it. So I'm going to keep saying it. And
I think what's been surprising is he's been unapologetic about things, and that has not hurt him.
That's the thing, because when he said he didn't like McCain because he got captured as a POW, I was like, well, that's the end of the Trump presidency. Because you cannot go against a war veteran hero like McCain, like for their service. I mean, that's just like, that just kills your presidency. And it didn't. And then he went against that woman and was like making reference to her being on her period. And then you're like, well, that's the end of it. You can't say that. And then these women are showing up for his rallies. It's like, how could you be a woman and show up for a rally for somebody who said something so misogynistic about like women on their periods can't moderate a debate?
And yet he's tapping into something that is actually very real, that was dismissed for a long time, I think, by many people. And I think people are recognizing, regardless of whether he wins, that there's a very real anger both at the existing political system and at the existing nature. I mean, economically, this is a significant part as well, right? The sort of the lack of increase in sort of job sustainability and productivity amongst many people in the middle class. There's like real palpable, clearly anger on this, both on the right and on the left with Bernie.
Yeah. I love that guy, Bernie Sanders. He's like a crazy uncle.
He's authentic.
That's the other thing. He's authentic. So they're both like the Clinton versus Bush. We thought that was kind of going to be the given. And instead, it looks like Trump versus Bernie, these two wacky candidates who are just nothing like anything we've seen before.
I mean, we'll see on Bernie's side how sort of things play out outside of Iowa and New Hampshire. But I do think he's impressing people more than was expected.
Is he in the lead in either of those places? I think he's in the lead in one of them.
Right now, the polls are more or less a dead heat. Some put him ahead. Nationally, it's not the case.
Right.
Look, I think that people also have underestimated Hillary in a way. I mean, she goes up there in debates, and I think she's also quite an impressive debater.
I think I'm voting for Hillary.
If you hold off that endorsement, we'll publish your endorsement on Change Politics, get a bunch of followers. And
I met her a bunch of times. I think she's super smart. I think she's driven. But I also
she's far smarter than people give her credit for.
Yeah, I spent an hour and a half with her one time in like a 12-person think tank, and I sat literally next to her, and I get the sense that she is brilliant and she would put the country in the right direction. That being said, the anarchist in me, like this little tiny like anarchist, is like, this is a good opportunity to break the two-party system. Maybe a Bernie or a Trump is a good idea. And I can't tell if Trump's serious. I thought Trump was trying to sell apartments. What is your concern?
My concern is the consequences pursuant, independent of who it might be.
Yeah.
The consequences pursuant to having someone that doesn't have the public's interest or a steady hand on the nuclear sort of – it's such a significant thing. What we're going to see unfold over the next 4 to 8 years is of such significance for the future of not just the 320 million people here, but
humanity,
the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we have more impact in many cases. The president has more impact on the rest of the world than he or she does on the U.S., given the size of the rest of the world and our disproportionate influence. And so I just think that whoever that is, it's just of immense consequence. And one of the things I'd say about Silicon Valley is it's easy for us to dismiss the sort of frustration of the ineffectiveness.
Flyover states, yeah.
Yeah, they sort of, but really these things matter, and I would like Silicon Valley to lean in more. I mean, we've transformed through technology massively, communications, transportation, commerce, sort of media, but haven't actually changed politics. And I think that is absolutely possible. Yeah. It's what we're trying to do, and I think there should be more efforts like
What I like about what you're doing, too, is it's a nice compliment to all the people in Silicon Valley who are just straight up buying everybody off. So, like, all my friends are just buying off these politicians. Like, they did it with Obama. I got a lot of friends who raise, super PAC kind of, whatever they call them, super PACs,
yeah,
super funders. I don't know. Anyway, I know all these super funders because they're always inviting me to go to lunch with those bundlers. I was like one of the bundlees. So like, hey, I was talking to Obama and he really wanted you to come by for a barbecue on Sunday. I was telling him about you. I was like, really?
This is how the system
$35,000 barbecue at his house. But it was literally at his house. And I was like, invest in another startup this week or barbecue at Obama's. I'm going to invest in another startup.
I mean, I think that nobody wants the system, but we have today because no one's fought a systemic shift. And I think that independent of what we're building, there's a clear opportunity with smartphones and voting that if you own that, if you can shift that, you have huge power in politics.
Dude, I love you. It's really refreshing to talk to you. I understand why all these like famous people like Bill Gates and Richard Branson, Reid Hoffman, who our network just gave you tens of millions of dollars to do what you do. It's like really a pleasure to have you on the program and talk to you.
Well, it's great to be here, and I look forward to your candidacy for mayor.
It's so funny. My wife is just like, my poor wife. I love her, but she's just like, oh my God. She knows it's like.
She knows you're not totally kidding.
Well, this is how everything in my life starts. Like I'm like, I should do a television show. And then all of a sudden there's a podcast. And I'm like, I should do a TV show on Real TV. And then I'm like on CNBC.
Tell me what the downside would be to you running for mayor.
Well, if I got the job, if I won, that would be a huge downside for me because let me tell you something. My life is awesome. Do you think I want to be hanging out with these like
That's fair.
Political people who like.
Assume you just barely lose.
That would be, actually, you know what would be perfect? This is what I'll do. I win.
You could resign and then give it to somebody else that you think is tremendous.
This is actually, I know. I'll do what Arnold did. I think what Arnold did was he won, and then he just brought a group of people, and he just delegated the hell out of it. Because here's the thing. My life is really good right now. Like, lots of good stuff going on, and people are like, hey, you want to come to the Golden Globes? Hey, you want to go to Necker Island? Hey, you want to... I get a lot of cool invites, and I want to do that cool stuff. You think I want to be like...
Globe-trotting mayor.
That's what I would like to be. Can that be done?
You're the mayor of the World's Innovation Center.
I think it's like, what's so great about it is there are so many people who don't like me who right now are just like thinking like, oh my God, it could actually happen. Or even to my jaders, like the concept of me actually being in a debate would just make them infuriated. They would be so infuriated. And now that Trump has laid the groundwork for somebody bombastic who's entertaining, to actually see, this is what my theory is. Everybody I think he's a master troll, right? And he's super entertaining. And then people are meta trolling because they're like, well, if we don't, when the person calls on the polls, when they say who you're voting for, people go like this. They hold over the phone. They go, I'm going to tell them Trump. And they tell people on the polls,
this is the one thing we will see. We will find out a lot more when we actually have voting in Iowa and New Hampshire.
Right, because I think they want to have an entertaining debate. These debates have been awesome.
Oh, I mean, tremendous viewage. Viewership has been remarkable. This is why I say for you running for mayor, whenever you announce.
I'm a ratings machine, dude. When I'm on CNBC, the phones light up. Ratings.
Let me know when.
Listen, Ben, delightful. Everybody go. Are you hiring, or you got enough
We're hiring
people?
a bunch of folks.
There you go.
Engineers in particular, product
Love it.
managers and designers.
All right. Everybody go over there to change.org if you're a nonprofit. This is a good place for you to get affordable leads who will then spend more money with you. And 136 million people in 196 countries cannot be wrong. 10-year journey. You can make a 10-year anniversary next year.
Yeah, we're 9 years on February 7th.
So you can have a party next February, 10-year anniversary.
I mean, we're trying to obscure the fact that it's taken 10 years. I mean, almost all of our team has joined in the past 2.
Yeah, you're definitely scaling. I think you got to be like relentless about making money. Like, because I really wish.
We think it's a necessary component of having impact. Clearly.
Yeah, it's like when you say that, it's not. When you say necessary, it doesn't mean relentless. I would like to see you become relentless about it. Like, just make this thing profitable real quick. Because here's the thing. Even with the B Corps, I feel like the B Corps are still kind of like a scarlet letter. Like, still not serious.
I think it's been that way because there haven't been breakout successes.
You need to be that breakout
success.
success.
That is our goal.
Put ads on the site. Like literally put ads on the site. Let people put their sponsorship up for like whatever. And then you should do a partnership with BuzzFeed, because then BuzzFeed could put the petition on their site, your site, and then boom, it just goes supernova. All right, listen, we'll talk all day. We've been talking for 80 minutes. This is going to be double episode. Ben, continued success. Everybody follow @Change. Go to change.org and check out changepolitics.org, the latest from change.org. What an amazing company. And thank you to our partners for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. And thanks to Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie for getting me amazing guests like this. What an amazing show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.